Tonight, Jimmy Kimmel canceled for now. ABC yanking his show indefinitely after comments in the wake of Charlie Kirk's murder and a threat from Donald Trump's administration.
We can do this the easy way or the hard way.
Plus, the feds demand the left stop demonizing the president and his supporters, as MAGA accuses the administration of leveraging a legacy.
They can tell you what to say. They're telling you what to think. There is nothing they can't do to you.
Also, a tale of two reactions.
As President of the United States, my response was not, who may have influenced this troubled young man?
The predecessor criticizes his successor over the assassination aftermath. Live at the table, Scott Jennings, Sochi Inahosep, Scott Walker, and Montel Williams. Americans with different perspectives aren't talking to each other, but here they do. Good evening, I'm Phillip in New York. Let's get right to what America's talking about. Cancel culture, free speech, and censorship. In a stunning development tonight, ABC has dropped Jimmy Kimmel's late-night show indefinitely after comments he made after Charlie Kirk's assassination. Now, before we get into this, listen to the comment in question that ABC and the administration think crossed the line.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger-pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half-staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yes. Okay. He's at the fourth stage of grief, construction. There's demolition, construction. This is not how an adult grieves the murder of someone he called a friend. This is how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish, okay?
Now, this happened on Monday night before prosecutors released the charging documents and the evidence, which included text messages about the shooter's motive. But it was today that the Trump administration threatened ABC over Kimmel's remark.
They have a license granted by us at the FCC, and that comes with it an obligation to operate in the public interest. And we can get into some ways that we've been trying to reinvigorate the public interest and some changes that we've seen. But frankly, when you see stuff like this, I mean, look, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. These companies can find ways to change conduct, to take action, frankly, on Kimmel, or, there's going to be additional work for the FCC ahead.
Now, the irony in all of this is that the news comes just 24 hours after MAGA blasted the Trump administration for threatening to crack down on free speech. Journalism professor Jeff Jarvis is here with us at the table. He's the author of the Gutenberg Parenthesis. Scott Jennings, you were at this table last night and you defended free speech. Tonight, we are seeing the FCC chairman explicitly threatening a company over speech that they don't like. You're good with it or not?
Well, I mean, Jimmy Kimmel's still free to speak. He just isn't necessarily free to do it on ABC, which obviously made a business decision. I see everybody rushing to blame the administration for this tonight. But you had Nexstar, which owns a bunch of ABC affiliates, and Sinclair Group, which owns a bunch of ABC affiliates, saying they were mad about what he did. I'm sure it generated massive numbers of viewer complaints into the affiliates. A smart TV person said the only thing you can't do in TV is piss off the affiliates, and I think that's what they did.
So then why did Brendan Carr have to say, we can do this the easy way or we can do this the hard way? And then he went on to say that they can either censor Jimmy Kimmel or the FCC will have more work to do. And as you may know, Nexstar has business before the FCC. They have a deal to purchase another TV group, Tenga, for $6.2 billion. In order to do that, they need Brendan Carr to say, yes, you may own more TV stations than is legally allowed right now. So there's clear influence happening from the FCC over this. It could have been a business decision if he had just left it alone, but he didn't leave it alone.
Well, but that's a part of the factor. But I go back to what Scott just said. If you got your affiliates saying this, I mean, for all this talk about cancel culture, Jimmy Kimmel can say this. This is unlike, I think of all of us who work with students, whether it's Young America's Foundation, Turning Point, College Republicans, when we go to a college campus, particularly a government-run institution, where they say, no, conservatives can't come, or they put unreasonable barriers, that's cancel culture. That's saying we're picking one over the other. Here, if it's a business decision, people can still say the same thing with employers. People can say what they want, but there has to be consequences for those actions.
But you kind of glossed over what I asked you, which is, do you acknowledge that the FCC threatened explicitly? I'm not paraphrasing. He said it. We played the clip. That the FCC would get involved if they did not do something about Jimmy Kimmel. Well, did he not say that?
He pointed out what their options were. And again, they have to make
options were get rid of Jimmy Kimmel or the government will come after you.
That's a threat.
But in this case, I look back to what you're saying about the affiliates. This didn't just happen overnight. This is an ongoing process. Same with Stephen Colbert, where you've got people who are failing and losing audience and losing money. And for them, they use this as a business opportunity to say, no, this is what we want to do.
The situation on the table right now. What is the government's role in this? And do you acknowledge that Brandon Carr went on that program with the explicit purpose of sending a clear message to an entity that has business before him on his desk and saying, if you don't do this, I will do that? Did he not do that?
I can't speak for what his intentions are. I can tell you that no business out there would make a decision based on one interview. This is part of a larger deal where they're looking at the circuit.
They would make a decision based on
There's no business out there that would do that solely tonight off of one decision.
They would make a decision.
That's why you're narrowing the issue on here to say this fits your narrative, but not what the facts are.
If you can defend it, defend it. But you're not defending it.
I'm
You're
totally defending it. I'm saying
as if it's not happening.
You're ignoring the larger context of saying, why are all these affiliates, why did they jump this? Because they've seen consistently problems with this.
Yeah. Let's look at the larger context here. So let's look at the larger context here. We have the history of what happened with Paramount and the $16 million blackmail to the administration to do its merger. We have ABC and the $15 million blackmail to the administration in that case. So it's already happened before. Now let's put the elephant right there square on the table and collapse it. Because we have the Ellisons, who now control Viacom and Paramount together, talking about trying to buy this company and trying to buy and control CNN on top of what they're doing with CBS, with this kind of backup from the Federal Communications Commission at the same time that President Trump has just done a sweetheart deal, we hear, with the Ellisons and Mark Andreessen to take over TikTok. That is an incredible control of media left in this country. And the only good news I see, I hate to say this to my friends here at CNN, is that mass media are dying. So they're taking the last of these vestiges of institutions that matter, of the Tiffany Network, of CNN, and they're trying to turn them into propaganda organs under threat from the head of the FCC, who does have some some measure here. So this is not just a business decision. This politicians
they are. It used to be funny on late night television. It's not anymore. It's become a political hate fest.
But
well, that's a whole different question to you as a critic.
From the beginning, this administration has tried to control what the media is saying and doing, and we just saw that this week with the New York Times. The New York Times, there is a lawsuit against the New York Times that essentially they don't like the way that they're covering Donald Trump. Donald Trump does not like that. He has done it with ABC. He has done it every step of the way. And this is just another way that he is doing it. And I will say it is impacting the media. Trump is successful. There are reporters in newsrooms who are terrified to report anything that could criticize the president because they could get a lawsuit slapped on them. And this isn't about any specific network or any specific newspaper.
Or be a black columnist fired by the Washington Post.
That's correct. And so what you're seeing is that it is sending a chilling effect. It is sending a chilling effect across the media, which it is intended to do by this administration in order to silence them.
You use the phrase propaganda, Professor, and I just have to ask you, what do you consider what Jimmy Kimmel was doing every night or what Stephen Colbert was doing by having on only Democratic guests? Jimmy Kimmel Monday night flat lied about the shooter. Back in the spring, he egged his audience on in cheering on the violence against and wanting, kind of wishing, I think, the downfall of a publicly traded company, Tesla. Do you consider that to be propaganda? Is it good for a business?
Do you consider that to be free speech, Scott?
You use the phrase propaganda.
I'm asking you. You used the words free speech before. Do you consider that free speech?
I consider it to be speech, and he's obviously free to say it.
Will you defend that speech in this country that will defend to the death the speech of others. Will you defend Jimmy Kimmel's speech?
Do I defend Jimmy Kimmel going on television and saying that a shooter from the left?
You defend his right to do so.
He has a right to do so, but he does not have a right to have a television show where he lies his ass off to the American people and attacks half this country on a nightly basis.
Whoa. Hold on. Listen, there are plenty of people over on another network that I will not name who lied about the last election, who denigrate half the country every single night. And guess what? They are allowed to do it. Now, the question is, Scott, is the
by
government...
their company. It's their business decision.
Hold on. But
because the president likes
is the government supposed to be punishing people for the speech that they don't like? Is that the role of the government in your mind?
The government is not punishing them. This was not a government decision. Ultimately, Disney made a decision. Ultimately, CBS made a decision earlier this year. You all are blaming the government. That's your opinion. That's your opinion about their business motivations.
All right, while we're having this conversation, if the control room could just prepare again Brendan Carr's comments today. We'll play it again, but go ahead, Montel.
I just want to make a point. You know, it's very ironic. Today is the 238th anniversary of the signing of the Constitution. Today is when the First Amendment came into being. One of the first tenets is freedom of speech. And on this day, we decide to silence someone because of their speech.
He's not silent.
All right, no, he can go on and talk anywhere he wants.
Let everybody just
he just doesn't have a right to have a job because he wants to say what he wants to say.
Put your listening ears on for just a moment.
Between speech and a job. Okay, well, let me ask this question. How about this last week? Wait a minute, I'm sorry. How about this last week? There was a person on another network who's talked about euthanizing some of our veterans because they are homeless. Does that person deserve to have their job?
If I'm an employer and I don't like that, I have a right to fire
them. There are
them.
a lot of people around this country who don't like it.
You don't have a right to work for whoever you want to. You have a right to say what you want,
but you're
not
forgetting
to be
about the
employed by
threats,
anyone.
which Abby's going to play.
Here's the reason I want to play this, okay? Because I think we're willfully ignoring the threat, which was explicit. It wasn't implicit, it was explicit. Listen to what he actually said.
They have a license granted by us at the FCC, and that comes with it an obligation to operate in the public interest. And we can get into some ways that we've been trying to reinvigorate the public interest and some changes that we've seen. But frankly, when you see stuff like this, I mean, look, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. These companies can find ways to change conduct, to take action, frankly, on Kimmel, or, there's going to be additional work for the FCC ahead.
It'd be a shame what happens to your nice network. It'd be a shame what happens to your nice show. That's a threat.
Well, and not only that, but then Donald Trump took to Truth Social and then said further, that leaves Jimmy and Seth, two total losers on fake news NBC. Their ratings are also terrible. Do it, NBC. I mean, it will never end. But, just worth noting, just a couple years ago, back in 2019, Brendan Carr, he tweeted this on a different topic. Should the government censor speech it doesn't like? Of course not. The FCC does not have a roving mandate to police speech in the name of the public interest. And yet, he is doing exactly that today. Where does this end? Where does this end in your mind? You are fully comfortable with the government saying, if you don't do this, if you don't get this person off the air who said something that was wrong or that you did not like, we are going to drop the hammer on you?
No.
You're good with that?
No. I didn't like it when the Biden administration worked with big tech during
so
COVID
why
and
are you defending it?
I'm not defending this. I'm saying right now, if ABC comes out and says we were forced to do this, we don't want to do this, I think this is part of a larger business decision on their part that goes back to what Scott said before about the affiliates. This is a failing industry in terms of late night television.
I get it. Listen,
this is their excuse. This
linear
is their
television,
reason.
failing industry. The whole world understands that. But Nexstar has a very clear financial interest in not getting on the wrong side of that guy whose clip we just played. Right? You don't see the problem with that?
And I think right now they're looking at the larger business circumstances, and they're hoping that people like you and others would point that direction instead of focusing on their business decisions.
You at least see an ethical consideration for Carr, a conflict of interest for Carr, some sense of his position as a government official to make that kind of threat?
Since when is the FCC an attack dog for any political party?
Well, It has been against Howard Stern. It has been against others in the past, which I also object to. There is a slice out of our First Amendment for broadcast, which I think is wrong. And it's based on wrong decisions years and years ago about precious airwaves and about going into the home and so on and so forth. If we believe in the First Amendment, we believe in the First Amendment. And now we have this fascinating thing happening on the right where you have Ted Cruz defending hate speech because he doesn't want his speech taken off. And so where does free speech, is your question, Abby, where is free speech here then? Where is that line? How do we know where that line is now?
Well, I think it's similar to the debate we've had this week beyond just this topic to people who said horrific, awful things after the assassination of Charlie Kirk last week. Now, I think it's awful, but they have a right to say that. But I also think employers have a right to say, not just in this instance, but in so many others we documented, if you say something that's inconsistent with the principles of our organization, be it a college, a business, a nonprofit, we don't want you on
You
our
think
payroll.
Fox should take Brian Kilmeade off the air for what he said about homeless people?
I think in all those cases, they have a right to do that. Whether
Do you think they should? I'm asking for your judgment. You talked about a critic before, or you're a critic now. Do you think Fox should fire
I
Brian
didn't say that they had to
Kilmeade?
take Jimmy Kimmel off. I said they have a right to. In each of these cases,
Do you think they should at Fox?
I'm telling you, they have a right to. That's what I'm talking
But you're
about.
also, you continue to talk about how it's a business decision, but the reality is that whether it is a threat, whether it is Donald Trump also threatening to go after organizations just because they have different views than him, he is threatening to go after the far left. All of these aren't business decisions. This is the federal government that is using their power in order to silence the media and people that disagree with them. And that is what is alarming.
So there was some reporting tonight that Kimmel was going to address this on his show tonight, but rather than allow this company to handle this the way that maybe they saw fit, maybe he might have apologized. They decided to go this route, and I have to believe, I guess, because it's in part because Trump, you read one of the tweets, but here's what he said on August 6th after Colbert was taken off the air or his show was canceled. Here's what he said in terms of his order of operations here. Let's play the soundbite from Trump.
Fallon has no talent. Kimmel has no talent. They're next. They're going to be going. I hear they're going to be going. I don't know, but I would imagine because they get, Colbert has better ratings than Kimmel or Fallon.
Okay, let's just take a moment and let's pretend that Donald Trump is not the president. Let's pretend that it's somebody else, and that person says, "I don't like this person. I don't like that person. They're going to be gone next because I want them gone." I think the question that we have to ask ourselves in this moment is, if you took the partisanship out of it right now, would you be comfortable with a president of the United States saying to any private corporation, television network, cable broadcast, that this is how they have to program their TV in terms of who is on and who is not?
I don't have a problem with the president expressing an opinion about people who express opinions about him. And regarding Kimmel, whether he was going to address it or not, I read that he was going to address it, but that he wasn't going to apologize, which I am sure was going to make Sinclair and Nexstar go crazy.
But what about Trump using the government to enforce it? Because it's not just his words. He is also using the government to enforce his words.
Well, it is your opinion that they were threatening them. It is my opinion that they had a larger decision to make regarding their business interests.
Twice now. It is not my opinion that Brendan Carr said, "You can either do this or I will do that." That's what he said. That's not my opinion. That's a fact.
Look, my view is all these companies have business decisions to make that are based on more than just what a singular person said in an interview. They've got affiliates to deal with. They've got advertisers to deal with. I promise
so why
you
not let them deal
that
with
when
it?
Jimmy
Why
Kimmel
do you
does
have
what
to
he
bring
does.
the FCC into it?
Well, look, he gave an interview. I can't tell you that if I were the head of the FCC, I would have given that interview. It sounded a little over the top to me, but I still believe that what's going on here has more to do with their business than it does with the government.
Then why won't you guys denounce it? That's the thing. Why won't you say what the FCC, what they did is wrong? I mean, I think that's the problem. It was a threat from the administration, and I understand the business dealing 100%. Just like the first ABC settlement, I truly believe that they were looking at it. It was a business deal. It was a business decision there, and that's why they moved forward with that. But when it comes to an actual threat from the federal government, that's wrong. It is wrong for our government to threaten these organizations when they have the power to approve mergers?
They didn't have to do this. They looked at all of the factors and said, okay, it's time for us to take Jimmy Kimmel off the air. I think there's more going on than just Brendan Carr's interview. All the time the president criticizes media outlets who then go out and continue to do what he hates it.
Then he sues them.
He's saying that he
for
hates.
$15 billion.
And what's going to happen? Nothing. What's going to happen?
This is an attempt to intimidate the New York Times. And you've heard me on this show. I'm not crazy about the New York Times coverage right now.
I mean,
but they're
listen.
trying to intimidate them. The same thing with ABC. The same thing with CBS. This is the power of the government brought down on speech, on the press.
Maybe it's just the power of someone in the government forcing a little self-reflection in these media companies for what they've been doing and the way they've been operating.
Free speech or not?
Of course I do.
Yeah, but it means you're saying we have to tie our hands and never fight back. All of us who've been attacked for
so let Jimmy Kimmel fight back.
So now it's about fighting back. Do you?
Yes,
believe
I think when he speaks out, when he says these people are bad and disgusting, and they're
not,
I totally agree with that. But I don't believe that means an elected official like myself or others can say, no, just go ahead and talk. I'm not going to push back on you.
Do you understand that the threat of the president suing you for saying things that they don't like, and the threat of the government preventing you from conducting businesses.
Well, the reason the president won in the past when he was a candidate was because of actions that they took were contradictory to what they actually reported.
So when Elon Musk was spreading lies about, well, all kinds of things, but let's just put on the table the attack on Nancy Pelosi's husband, and he was spreading falsehoods about claiming that there was some kind of illicit relationship, completely false stuff. If the government had dropped the hammer on Elon Musk, you would have been fine with that?
No, I'd say
so why can't we be intellectually honest and apply the same principles across the board? Why do we have to create
because you're saying if the government did something, I'm saying they did. They made a decision today that they announced that.
It's amazing how you're acting how Trump is powerless. He's just out there saying a few things.
No, I think he's extremely powerful. He's actually speaking to the voices of millions of people.
He is using his power as a
threat. New York and Washington,
he is threatening.
Shoving it down their face when they actually want something.
ABC could put somebody on the air tonight. Anybody who could criticize Donald Trump, they're not prohibited from doing that. If you're worrying about a platform about Trump, they could put anybody on the air.
I actually disagree with that. I disagree with that.
What? They're a business. They could put anything on the air tonight that they want.
But the problem is that they have a merger that has to be approved by the FCC. And if they're just like we have seen with other outlets, Donald Trump is happy to dangle that in front of other outlets in order to get what he wants. And that is the problem.
All right, let's press pause on this conversation. I want to continue it when we come back. It'll include what's happening as the feds warn that the left should stop demonizing Trump specifically, despite the president's rhetoric against the left. Stay with us.